On today's episode of the Youth Ministry Sherpas Coast to Coast podcast, they are teenagers. They're going to make bad choices and do dumb things. We sure did. So, as responsible and loving adults and spiritual mentors, how do we decide when to confront them? When is it best to let it go? When do we need to say something? And what posture do we take when we do? Youth ministry is a messy business, so it's a good thing we are a mess too. It's a great conversation with all three of us in the room, so roll down your windows and let's get started. Hey friends, welcome back to the Youth Ministry Sherpas Coast to Coast podcast. My name is Steve Anderson, and I'm joined by both my good friends today, Shannon and Brock. Hey guys.
Hello.
How we doing?
It is always a challenge to get the three of us into a room together, and we managed to pull it off. So Well done, guys.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think we've only done maybe three this whole year? 2, 3?
It's possible.
Yeah. So, we're together today. I am in Frederick, Maryland. Shannon is in Malibu, California. Brock is in Chino, California. And somewhere in between, there's a dust storm. Did you guys know that?
No.
So we woke up on Saturday morning here in Maryland, and all the cars were covered with this layer of dust. Shocking layer of dust, unusually looking.
Huh.
And I checked later, it pops up on my social media that there's a dust storm in West Texas and New Mexico.
Isn't there always a dust storm in Texas?
Yeah, probably, but this one carried all the way up in the wind stream, all the way up to the North Atlantic, and
that's insane.
Dumped its dirt on my car outside my house here in Walkersville, Maryland.
That was like when, maybe that was a couple years ago, there was a fire in Canada.
That was last summer, wasn't it? Last summer?
Then there was
smoke here
on the East Coast or something.
Yeah. Oh, there too. Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
Nuts. Oh my gosh. Well,
Shannon's coming off
cool.
Yeah, Shannon's coming off a big event. She's alive and well.
I almost canceled on you guys today. I'm not gonna lie.
Don't do it, Shannon.
I just was I've worked 9 straight days from 8 a.m. to the end of 8 p.m. I mean, honestly, and later on the event nights, I was like, I don't know if I have the words for it, but here I am. I did it. I'm here. And
well, we're grateful.
In the middle of that week, here's what happened to me. My 8-year-old used her first cuss word.
Oh.
And got caught.
Was it a good one?
Yes, my favorite one. She wrote it on a piece of paper, though, spelled it right. I'm not going to throw her totally under the bus. I'm not going to, share all the details.
No. Do you want to write it down? You want to hold it up for the camera?
I wish I had the picture of it.
Oh,
you didn't save it?
I hope you've kept.
We have it somewhere. It's not gone.
Okay, good.
It's not
gone. You got
to
pull that out. You put that on her graduation table at her graduation party.
It was hilarious.
Is this child of yours a guilty kind of person? Do they feel remorse or what was the response?
Well, my husband picked her up and he was very upset. And so, she had a lot of guilt and cried for days and didn't want to go to school the next day. And now I'll bring it up to just try to have a positive conversation. And she'll be like, I just don't want to talk about it.
Oh my goodness.
So the consequence of just talking about it, I think, is enough for her,
Right. Oh my gosh.
Were you guys cussers when you were kids?
Steve was. I can tell. He has that cursing vibe.
Yeah. Our neighborhood, man, late elementary school and middle school, junior high, we were pretty foul-mouthed. I'm convinced, yeah. There are times I know when my parents overheard us all out playing, we're like, oh my gosh, we're raising an animal. Yeah, it was bad. I'm sure it was bad.
My very first time counseling for a summer camp, I just graduated high school, and it was a youth group summer camp. It was middle schoolers, and they took me as the leader, and I slipped and cussed in front of my cabin.
Oh.
And these kids, these girls were so mean. They made me feel horrible.
Oh, wow.
They laid into me and they were like, "You can't believe you said that." And I cried and cried. And look at me now, here in youth ministry still, even though my first experience was these horribly mean kids.
Should have cussed them out.
Well,
Pharisees.
Who do you think you are?
Pharisees.
The youth pastor I was working for, after I came and I confessed and I was crying and I was so upset, he pulled me and he was like, I think he said something along the lines of who effing cares? Or so, just to make me laugh and
right.
snap out of this deep guilt-ridden, feeling that I had.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Well, our Sherpa fans should know that, when we're not recording, Brock is known to share a favorite word or two along the
What?
No.
Brock
Morgan.
Morgan.
No.
You would never know, but I was quite the legalist as a child.
Were you?
Oh,
I was too, actually.
I wasn't a cursor.
Yeah.
Not even in high school or it was when I went into ministry that the cursing started.
I don't do it every time.
How do you react when your students curse in front of you?
I'm pretty lenient on my rule is because so it just depends on your context. So my previous youth group, it was full of these religious Christian school legalists, and they never or they would curse, but never, not at youth group, away, and then they would judge, and so I wouldn't curse, but I would push the verbal envelope a little bit and try to stretch them, not to be so pharisaical.
Mm-hmm.
And then this youth group, they're just a bunch of foul-mouthed, Southern California, oh my gosh, they'll curse in front of me and not even flinch.
Yeah.
There's no, it's normal, they're saying normal words.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no thought to that this is possibly not appropriate.
Or is this guy going to care if I say this in front of him?
I shouldn't say this in front of my pastor. Yeah.
So the only time I ever confront language is when it's degrading.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my rule with our leaders. With these kids, I'm just trying to get them to love Jesus, to create a safe environment where they feel free to even at times be their worst selves, and grow into becoming their better selves, their greater selves. And I don't think legalism is the right environment for them. And so for me, it's creating an environment of grace.
Yeah.
But we do not degrade, belittle, use words to harm.
Yeah, for sure.
Make people feel less than.
Yeah, that's different.
So that
honestly, I think that's when the Bible admonishes us against cursing. I think it's cursing people. I think it's focused at someone, dragging them down more than I hit my finger with a hammer and I can't say a terrible word. I don't think that's of great concern, but I could be wrong.
We played a game. We have a notorious cursor, and he's one of my favorite kids. So his dad died a year and a half ago. The first thing he came to was our camp. So we had never met him. His dad died, and a week later he was at camp with us.
Wow.
And he's an amazing kid. And he is a foul-mouthed kid. He curses and he's funny. He's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, I was like, bro, you should be a comedian. You are funny. He's like, I was voted funniest kid in my school.
Of course.
I'm like, dude, you are hilarious. You're so funny. But we played a game called International Espionage. And I'm sorry, I'm having head stuff. And the deal was, I said, if Jack does not curse during this game, this is in front of everyone. There's 100 kids getting ready to play this game. that I'm taking him to lunch. And he's like, yeah. He didn't last 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's so funny.
Great.
So funny.
What's the culture like at your youth group, Steve, with cussing?
They tend to hide it from us, but
Yeah.
we know it's happening. Yeah.
Do you correct it if you catch it?
No.
Yeah.
Not really. We don't have a lot of culture in that space at the moment. So unless like Brock said, if it's directed at somebody, we would. Yeah. I mean, there have been a couple times. We always tell these stories about the times when I cussed out a student. There's been just 2 or 3. In a relational context, student deserved it. It didn't last long. It didn't make its way up to the leadership. So
well, if they're listening, it did.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a few moments where I just had to say something to a kid.
Sometimes words to get a point across.
Sure.
There are some words that help. They're helpful.
Yeah.
Brock, are you lifting weights under your desk? What is that sound? Or is that Shannon? Is that Shannon?
Yeah. You know, we have a massive tent.
Oh, it's the tent coming down.
The tent is coming down from our event. I'm so sorry.
My goodness.
I was hopeful you couldn't hear that.
That's funny. Oh, I hear these like metal poles. I imagine someone pumping iron.
Yeah, I'm pumping iron under my desk.
So this kind of segues into our topic for today, which, we're talking about when to correct students in their speech and stuff. And in youth ministry space, there's always students that are engaged in activities that you don't approve of, aren't in their best interest. And there's always that line between how do we know when to confront students? How do we know when to kind of let it go? How far do we let it go? What's our role in their lives in that way? And so we're going to talk today about when to confront. Our favorite thing is youth pastors, right?
As an Enneagram 9, I love confrontation. I love that. I love confrontation for sure.
So, when to confront students. How do we know when the time is right and what to say? Do you have some thoughts and experiences with that, guys?
Yeah, I'm really careful when to confront. I want confrontation to lead to, let's just say we're not talking about shallow little, they said a naughty word, or kids are having fun, and let's move away from cursing for a second. Let's talk about
or just
they're making choices,
throwing stuff around and getting being disruptive in a game or something like that. Yeah,
right. So there's some kids in our youth group right now that I know are making choices with their life.
Yes.
That's leading them into, let's just say, best case scenario, spiritual apathy. That's like best case scenario, or leading them further from God. They're compromising in ways that could really impact them spiritually. And I can think of a handful of kids in our youth group who are heading that way. And, when you're in touch, when you are hanging out with kids and you're regularly having conversations with kids, you kind of I think the Holy Spirit kind of clues us in that, man, I feel like something's up. And then you just watch their kind of disengagement or their subtle rebellion, and what I do is I don't know about you guys, but I just prayerfully wait for the right moment.
Yeah.
I want all confrontations to be positive. I don't want to ever confront out of, I'm frustrated with this kid. Sometimes in the moment, let's say a kid is disrupting a whole section during a talk. You want a leader sitting nearby to go, bro, cut it out. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm talking about like deeper life confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fascinating in the world of social media now that sometimes I find out about some of the choices they're making and getting into simply because sometimes I don't even follow them. This last week, I had some kid's TikTok from the youth group come through my page. I don't even know how. And I was like, dang, I just like found some stuff out I didn't really want to find out almost. Like it's like fascinating. You're like, it's this whole, and then you're like, well, what do I do about that? Because this isn't information that they had shared with me or they meant to share with me or what, you know, I mean, obviously their fault for putting it out in the world, but yeah, you're trying to build a relationship, a positive relationship with these students. Then what do you do when you enter into that situation where you find out they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, you know, on accident almost?
Social media throws a whole new angle into it because you could be the social media police constantly.
Right.
You know, there's so many, you can tell you can usually tell what's happening in the picture, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a party at somebody's house. And it just makes you feel uncomfortable. I don't even really, part of me doesn't even really want to know, like you said. And how do you guys, so when seniors graduate and go off to college, like this is happening now. This is a current thing. We have seniors that I love who've graduated, gone off to college, and I can tell from their pictures, you're making some really bad choices here. Do I have responsibility? Do I have the freedom? Is it healthy to say something to them? I mean, they probably forget I even follow them on social media.
Yeah. I think for the most part, I let those things go.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for the opening.
Yeah.
There's something so not personal about me shooting a message and saying, hey, I noticed that. So now I've told them that they're not, that they need to block me is what I've told them. And I don't think I want a relationship where they're like, ooh, I got to block Pastor Brock here.
Yeah, right.
So I can live my life. But to shoot a text saying, hey, just want you to know I'm praying for you. I love you. I hope you're doing okay. Non-confrontational conviction.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that is that hitting the mark? Are they getting that text? And they're like,
more than likely,
that's
no.
Probably a response to what I just put on Instagram.
I don't know. I think they're so disconnected from their choices sometimes that it may not even.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I agree. And I was actually going to say the same thing, Brock. I usually, when I see something on social media, it's like, oh, if I saw that, that's a reminder to let that person know that I'm here. I'm thinking about them. I care for you. I do the same thing. I send just a very kind, generalized text. But also, my husband and I, when we were leading youth group together for a while, one of the traditions we had for a few years was when they graduated. This was at a pretty small church. So we had like a real close relationship with each senior. We would frame a picture of the two of us and I'd print make wise choices. And I'd be like, this is for you to take to college with you and put up in your dorm room. Like, here's some people sitting there reminding me to make wise choices.
Next to a picture of grandma. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. One thing I think...
Go ahead,
Brock. Steve. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, when they get a message that says, hey, I was just thinking about you and praying for you, like the morning after they post their party picture, it feels like if they had any common sense, they would get the connection, right?
Good.
You just came to mind. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Good.
Wow. It's amazing. Yeah. One thing I do think that's helpful is I've tried to create a culture of confession at our youth group.
I love that.
And so how do you, I mean, you obviously want to teach on confession, but you also want to see confession modeled. And so what I do is I'll have a kid we regularly on Wednesday night, if you came to our youth group, you would see kids interviewed. We have kids come up and they're sharing testimony. Someone's interviewing them. And in it, there's a portion of confession, appropriate confession. And they're modeling. I went to my leader. I said, man, I've been really struggling with this. And then we show them how this led to maybe restoration or some healing or some freedom. And so I'm regularly modeling through kids how confession is powerful. And then there's a lot less confrontation that needs to happen, because it becomes the culture that I tell my small group leader when I'm not doing well, when I'm struggling, when I'm off the path. And so being super thoughtful and strategic with developing cultures of confession, dude, it leads to some really healthy stuff. And then when I'm going into a kid who, and then secondly, real quick, we have a rule that says we don't struggle alone. Mm-hmm. So I'm regularly saying we don't struggle alone here. Mm-hmm. So then when I go and I tell a kid, man, I've been watching you and I just feel concerned. Mm-hmm. What's going on? They are much more apt to tell me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just waiting for the Holy Spirit to lead me to that open door.
Mm. Yeah, I really like that. Imagine what big church would be like.
Yeah.
If that were the case, right? That vulnerability and that modeling. Yeah.
So I have a couple of kids who are making sexual choices right now that I think could really harm them. Mm-hmm. But I do not sense a tender heart right now. Mm-hmm. I talked with one of them at our retreat a week ago, and I said what I just said to you guys. I said, man, I've been watching. I just feel concerned. I feel like right now you're making choices that could really harm you. And we love you here. And I look at her and she's got this blank expression on her face. And so then I asked, you kind of take the temperature. You go, is this resonating? And she looks at me and she goes, no. Now I know for a fact, this isn't me. This isn't hearsay. Mm-hmm. I know she's making terrible choices. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to push.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a gentleman. I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to ruin my relationship with her. So then I just say, okay, well, if you ever want to talk about it, we're here.
Yeah.
And I let it go. And I think, man, pastoring, it is not easy.
I was going to say, do you think that's the natural tendency for pastors, youth leaders to, I don't know. I feel like I've known some who want to call out behavior often. Mm-hmm. And even sometimes we have students who want to call out other students' behaviors often.
Oh, yeah.
And that becomes kind of self-righteous and legalistic. And I want to beat that down. I don't like dealing in rumors. I hate dealing in rumors.
No. I do too.
So I don't know what the appropriate. I don't know.
I think I have two rules.
Okay.
One is I never confront someone on something that I do not know how to help them put their life back together.
Okay.
So I'm not going to confront something if I have no clue how to help them or to get them to help. I'm just frustrated and lashing out. So that's the first thing. And then second thing is I look at this relationship through the lens of evolution. So it's slow, subtle. This isn't a one-time confrontation.
Okay.
Right.
This is me planting a seed of, hey, you're loved here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this conversation could last over the next 3 years.
Yeah. And
I have to think through the long term constantly. And we get so stuck in the we want instantaneous transformation. We want revival and we want quick fix and sometimes kids have to take the long road.
Yeah.
And that's part of my story. Certain things I had to take the long road on. And so and so we're teaching kids that your choices are so powerful. They're so you have so much power over your own life. Kids don't feel like they have any power over their own life, but they really do. Their choices are significant.
Yeah.
And I'm here for the long haul. And you just need to know that whatever you need, like, I'm going to help you. And we're here for you. And it sounds like you're taking the long road. Okay, here we go.
I love that. Actually, I taught last night on Ephesians, the end of chapter 1, and talked about how the power within us is the same as the power that God exerted when he raised Christ from the dead. And we had a whole list of things that hold power over our lives that they had to respond to and like identify which ones have some power over me, everything, addictions, all kinds of stuff. And they talked about that in their small groups. And I heard it went really well. But as you were talking, Brock, I was thinking, I know there have been times in my own ministry, and I'm ashamed to say this. Well, I would go to both extremes. One extreme is I don't confront anything because I'm very non-confrontational and I hate confrontation.
Right.
But the other extreme is I have at times confronted things because I felt like somehow their behavior was a reflection on me or on the youth ministry, and I couldn't let that stand, or our reputation somehow was at risk, and I feel yucky about that. I don't like that at all.
Right.
Yep. No, totally. Yeah, and that's us constantly having to evaluate our motives.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of thinking of, is like there's this other side of it of where you're like never confronting everything because you're like, we're just about, only relation. I don't know. There's just this like, you got to be careful too, to not swing so dramatically towards like, I want everyone to like me. I want them all to think I'm cool, like, and never confronting. But I like what you said, Brock, about you're building in a culture where when these conversations happen, they're not like surprising. And I think part of building that culture up is also always being in check with the way we react when a kid shares something with us, right?
Yeah.
Like you will instantly destroy relationship or the culture if kids find out that they shared something hard that they're engaging in or did with you out of confession, and you react poorly to that, or you lay right into confrontation, or you lay right into correction, or whatever it is, like, I just think we have to be so careful with our reactions and our words and thanking them for sharing hard things with us. I think my go-to sentence out of my mouth after like every conversation with a kid is like, thank you for sharing that with me. It's like first always, is like, so it's so much about building the culture up around it.
Yeah.
How we respond can either teach them that confession is good, or I'm never doing this again.
Right.
And so when I was a young married man, I flew back to my college for like homecoming or something. And I went to the president of the college, discipled me and a group of my friends, and I went into his office. Now, I was probably married about 5 years at this point, so I had realized that marriage didn't fix me like I thought it would. When you're young, you're like, all my problems will go away once I get married.
That's funny. I thought marriage would fix my husband too.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't at all. So I went into his
You're in it
office.
For the long haul, Sharon. It's okay.
Right.
Hang in there. When he's about 70, it will. You'll be like, okay, now. But I went into his office, and I had planned to confess all my sins. So I went into his office. And I just told him I'm still struggling with lust, and I just laid it all out on the table. Man, I'm crying, and I was expecting Dr. Brown to reprimand me, or I don't know what I was expecting, but he looked at me and he said, "Brock, me too. I need Jesus too." And he fell to his knees and invited me to my knees, and together we prayed for each other.
Oh, I love that.
And from that moment on, I was like, okay, this is how whenever someone confesses to me, I'm going to let it like stir inside of me my own sin.
Yes.
Like I need Jesus too. Like I'm a mess too. We both can we pray for each other. And so there became this kind of philosophy of when someone confesses to me, I don't stand back in judgment or even warm judgment. Like, oh man, thank you for sharing that. What you did is terrible, but you know, we're here for you. For me, it's like, man, you know, I'm a mess too. And we need Jesus. And there's just something so, it's just so beautiful when other people's sin causes us to see our own sin. And we model that. And Dr. Brown modeled that for me. It even affected how we parent. So when Danson would mess up, I would go, Danson, I mess up all the time too.
Yeah.
And I would parent her from a place of brokenness, not a place of victory. Like you're a mess. I can't believe you did this. You're in trouble. And it did something in her that was really lovely, beautiful.
You know what's really incredible if you think about it is I think Christ had that posture even though he was sinless. You know, he was able to absorb people's struggles and, you know, I guess he's confronting them in a sense, but he's loving them so deeply that the confrontation is filled with this empathy and love.
Hope
and healing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're kind of trying to get to, right? With students.
Well, that's the beauty of confrontation is it's positive. It should feel like love. And love is love gets in the dirt. Like it's messy. And when we just stand back, Shannon, you said, you know, there's so many youth ministries that never confront. And hey, we support whatever choice you make. And let's not go down the rabbit trail of that one, but I'm just like, that's not necessarily love.
Right.
Because love gets in the weeds sometimes in a very warm, long, it's just long vision kind of way. Like we're gonna trudge through this together.
Andrew Root talks about the role of place sharing in youth ministry as opposed to like fixing people or building relationships as a means to something. It's simply being in life with them, in their situation with them. It's a different mindset. It's shifted my mindset. You know, we don't love kids so that someday they'll get it right and love Jesus and make us look good. We love kids because they're made in the image of God and we love them.
Yes.
And that's messy and requires confrontation with empathy and the long view. But that's good work, right?
It's good work.
Yeah,
it's holy work.
It's such a small mindset shift, right? Because like, yeah, in a sense, that's why we love, you know, the first part is why we love kids. But that's where it comes back to call too. It's like if you don't actually genuinely love teenagers, you can't last very long either, you know?
No. Well,
True.
It's remember that whole thing of sermons don't change people's lives, but people do? Well, that's not true unless people are lovingly guiding people. Like we have to get in the weeds.
Yeah.
We have to lovingly look for Holy Spirit moments to confront.
Yeah.
Life on life. This is the transformative work that we do.
Yeah.
So here's some things I heard from us today. See if this accurately represents what we're trying to communicate. It's really great to say, you know, thank you for sharing that with me. To have that first reaction be not one of judgment, but you're in it with them. You don't struggle alone. Reminding students that their issue, they're not the only one with that issue. That is a certainty. And then moving to, I'm here with you for the long haul. I'm not abandoning you because of this. We're not kicking you out because of this, right? And then empathizing at seeing our own sin in the midst of that, helps us to really love them and build empathy with them, because we realize that's us too.
Yeah.
And then they see that there's a beauty and a healing in that. So that's pretty good stuff, guys.
It's good.
Dude, come on.
Brock, Shannon and I have been meaning to confront you about this.
Yes, come on, bring it. I feel so much love.
Well, thank you for sharing your sins with us. We can't relate to them at all, so we're just going to hold your feet to the fire.
I know.
We've been meaning to talk to you about your cussing. So.
Yeah. Shannon, do you want to go get your daughter? We're gonna confront her right now. We're gonna set her straight.
We're gonna shame her right now.
We should shame Shannon because she has a daughter who actually said a cuss word.
Yeah,
said
a cuss.
I mean, really.
What kind of parent are you anyway?
I know,
Exactly.
terrible.
Oh my God. You're gonna be able to tell this story forever, though. That's what's so beautiful.
I know.
She'll be in her 20s cursing all over the place. Be like, I remember when cursing used to be like a bad thing to you.
I know. My husband said he's gonna like take a picture of the picture and like give it to her at her wedding. Just like here you go.
That sounds like bridesmaids toast. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you guys are awesome. Thank you for what you guys do. You encourage me.
Always
Likewise.
Good to be with you guys.
Yep, it's been fun, guys. So if you've enjoyed today's show, go out to Apple, iTunes, give us a 5-star review, share us with a friend, look us up on YouTube and follow our page, subscribe to Youth Ministry Sherpas on YouTube, or send us an email at youthministrysherpas@gmail.com. And if you want to cuss us out or you disagree with us, you can send us the email anyway. We will probably just either delete it or send it right back at you. So
maybe we'll enjoy it.
Yeah, we probably would enjoy it actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun, guys. Hope we can get together again very soon.
Awesome.
Peace out.